Last week, I slagged off Nintendo. This week, I praise Nintendo, or at least something Nintendo related, for you see the Jim giveth and the Jim taketh away. Unless we're talking about revenue on YouTube videos, in which case only Nintendo taketh away. And Square Enix sometimes. And Capcom when it's a music related thing and then they have to fix it. Or Warner Brothers. And Take-Two. And a whole bunch of other fuckers. I've often referenced the feeling that a lot of people think I hate downloadable content on principle alone, that I believe all DLC is bad and shouldn't be factored into the development of a game. In truth, I'm actually a big fan of DLC as a basic concept, and I believe many different types of it have their place. For me, the biggest issue with DLC isn't the fact that it exists, it's that a potentially good idea has been exploited, abused and overused so much that it's hard not to view content as a dirty word now. From excessive day one DLC to content pre-produced and locked out of the main game, to glorified cheat codes and extras most of us remember being part of the core experience in gaming past, there are many ways to negatively mutate DLC, and you better believe the so-called AAA industry has embraced most of them. But we talk about the negative side of DLC all the time, and no doubt will do again. Today I'm here to look at the flip side of the coin and discuss where I think downloadable content has been done right, specifically the extended offerings that continue to be part of one of my personal top games of 2014, Hyrule Warriors. There's a foundation with a ton of additional paid content being built on top, but unlike many similar experiences, I don't feel I'm being taken for a ride, and it's perhaps the only game to date where I feel the purchase of a season pass isn't actually a fuck-awful idea. First of all, and perhaps most crucially, Hyrule Warriors base game already provides a ridiculous amount of content. Between its story campaign, free mode, huge adventure mode, and 13 distinct characters to unlock and level, there's enough to where I was picking the game back up months after launch with plenty to do. You'd think it's a no-brainer, but actually ensuring the core game feels complete and worth dropping the bones for on its own is a concept that doesn't seem high on a list of AAA priorities these days. The second most important consideration is the fact that, as well as paid DLC, Hyrule Warriors has been supported with a number of free updates throughout its lifespan. That word, support, is important here. You see, developers love to sell the idea of DLC as them supporting the game after launch, rather than the more truthful, making more money off the product at launch. Support is a positive word, so obviously if you criticise the DLC, you're criticising a good thing, a supportive developer, how dare you. But here we see what actual support for a game post-launch looks like. These updates are not just patches to fix bugs and shit, they add active, actionable enhancements to the core game, often providing the kind of stuff other games will package into paid DLC rather than simply offer. For example, the last update to Hyrule Warriors increased each character's level cap, added new consumable potions, more unlockable medals, and new features to the weapon crafting system. This is front-facing stuff added to the game in a time where bringing more to the table has become unthinkable for most big-budget games. Large free updates that tangibly matter show that the developer cares about keeping you invested in the game for its own sake, and showcases actual support for the game and the audience's own investment. And then of course we come to the actual paid DLC itself. Rather than full-on expansions or little nickel and dime aesthetic offerings, Hyrule Warriors has struck a balance between the two most typical extremes of DLC, creating packages that contain new characters, new costumes for existing characters, new weapons, and new battles, often bringing hours of additional gameplay to the plate. For $7.99 you get basically a ton of stuff at the same price other games would charge for just some costumes, or an extra character, or a few new weapons. The content is all collected into clearly themed packages, reducing the risk of confusion that oversaturated content offerings fall into, and each one is so rich in stuff to do that the season pass truly feels like a well thought out offering, as opposed to the quick and dirty way to lock players into a shitty investment. You know, like most fucking season passes. I mean, it's sad as fuck that we have to be grateful for some of this stuff, but I still remember Dead Space offering character and weapon skins that cost $4 a piece, very shortly after launch I might fucking add. In fact, $8 got you less than half of everything Dead Space tried to sell you in its launch month, and that content didn't amount to a fraction of what a single pack in Hyrule Warriors nets you. And this was when DLC was just starting to get really shitty, like around 2008, and it sure as fuck hasn't gotten any better, but let's calm down, because we said we were keeping it positive this week. So yes, if more games did things that Hyrule Warriors did, you know, offer a big base game to keep me playing, significant free updates to keep my interest fresh, content offerings with substance to make a purchase worthwhile, a clear-cut thematically consistent DLC range to make shopping straightforward and a season pass seem reasonable, then I'd buy a fuck a lot more DLC than I do now. And by that, I mean Hyrule Warriors is the only game I've bought DLC for in basically fucking forever. It's almost like when you don't assault your audience with a saturation of bullshit and offer things worth buying, the audience parts with its money more readily. Weird how that works. A few weeks ago, Game Trailers' Kyle Bossman talked about this show. Hi Kyle, thanks for the shout out. He asked that I drop the use of what he called the big gloves. It's not going to happen, mostly because my hands are powerful. This is well known, it's documented in science journals, I'm something of a medical marvel. Through these fingers flow the power of ye gods. You know, if I take the gloves off, that power remains unchecked. These act as a limiter, kind of like weighted clothing in the Dragon Ball Zs. So they're not coming off, they're staying for the good of mankind. These only come off in dire situations, such as when humanity needs me most. So thank God for the big gloves, and indeed, as always, thank God for me. So that's good, what I've done there. The gloves stay.